The Midwest has been dealing with devastating floods, floods that have not been getting much press attention. But
Nebraska, Iowa, and Wisconsin, the Midwest, is in big trouble. There hasn't been a heck of a lot of coverage of the problem.
Governor, I have to tell you, I think you're being left out of coverage. I don't think that what has happened in Nebraska has gotten the kind of coverage that it should have from the coastal elites, if you want to put it like that. I think you're being left out.
Iowa, Nebraska, broad swaths of the Midwest are drowning right now, underwater. Farms, towns that will never be recovered and never come back. And we're here, and people are more concerned about helping oil companies than helping their own families? I don't think so.
According to Agriculture Secretary Sonny Perdue, there may be as many as 1 million calves lost in Nebraska due to the catastrophic flooding that has hit the state. You can watch Perdue make this quote on Fox Business, and it is important to remember that this number is just for one state. It is hard to imagine what the final numbers will look like when the livestock losses for all of the states affected by the flooding are tallied up. This is already the worst agricultural disaster in modern American history. Nebraska Governor Pete Ricketts said that this is the worst flooding that his state has ever experienced. Hundreds of millions of dollars of damage has been done in his state alone, and that is just an initial estimate. It deeply offends me that the big mainstream news channels have spent so little time covering this disaster.
This is Nebraska, one of several states devastated by water, lots of water.
They're telling everybody just grab what you can and get out. Now we've lost everything.
Over 1 million acres of American farmland flooded. Crops, livestock, roads, dams, homes destroyed.
It's hard to really describe the devastation that we witnessed. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And, you know, that's people's lives. Those are fifth generation farms. Those are businesses, communities.
Across the Midwest, farm losses alone are estimated to top $1 billion. But no one really knows just how much this disaster will add up to. Too much is still underwater. Even worse, more flooding is expected in the next few months. This is the worst agricultural disaster in modern American history. This is the time of year when farmers prepare to plant wheat, corn, and soy. Submerged fields can't be planted. Waters may not recede in time to sow, causing farmers to lose an entire growing season. And reports say the floods may have damaged the soil in ways that might render it unusable even beyond just the current year. This means shortages of beef, dairy, wheat, corn, and soy products. And that means your grocery bill is about to go up.
Governor Pete Ricketts, thank you so much for being with us. What can you tell us is the current flood damage situation in the state?
Well, we're still going through the analysis, and FEMA right now is going through the various counties to qualify them for the individual assistance and public assistance to the counties. They haven't done that yet. You know, we're still estimating it's about $400 million in livestock damage, about $440 million in crop damage, $439 million to our roads. We've got 15 bridges out, 258 miles of roads that need to be repaired.
So what can the state do to prepare for another flood of this magnitude? I mean, how can you prepare for this?
Well, it's really difficult to see how we could have prepared for this because this really was a record event in our state. I mean, you know, we set records in the Niobrara, the Platte, the Loup, the Elkhorn, and the Missouri River, and you just can't really predict those sort of things. You know, for example, I was talking to the folks in Plattsmouth after the 2011 flood. They rebuilt the levees and put them up higher. They thought they'd never see a flood event as high as 2011, and of course, we beat that record.
The recent floods in the Midwest devastated many local farms and shredded levees meant to keep the waters at bay. The United States Army Corps of Engineers estimates hundreds of miles of levees were destroyed during the floods last month. Many of those levees were decades old and weren't designed to withstand the rising river levels. For more on all of this, we're going to speak with Blake Hurst. You see him there. He's the president of the Missouri Farm Bureau.
The flood control system was designed in the 1940s. I don't think it's very surprising that 80 years later it's not adequate to today's situation. So we've got to get better.
What kind of changes should be made so that if there are weather events like this in the future, farmers won't be so devastated? Is it about improving levees or what?
Well, there's a lot of changes we can make. We changed the way the river flows through the Midwest in an attempt to protect endangered species, an attempt to slow the river down, widen the river out. And we're finding that those changes are having the effect of actually raising the river. So now we get flood conditions much quicker with much less rain than we did before. We can't act like we're going to just abandon the river back to nature, the river bottom back to nature. It's not going to happen. We made the decision a long time ago to put infrastructure, to put roads, to put bridges, to put railroads in that floodplain, and now we've got to figure out how to protect it. We've seen a tremendous amount of building, even here in the Midwest, asphalt, concrete, as the cities have expanded. That has speeded up the water getting into the river, where it used to be farmland that would soak in. Now it runs off, so that's part of our problem as well.
The American Society of Civil Engineers released their U.S. infrastructure report card today and gave the country a D+ grade. Chris Van Cleve spoke with the organization's president about the dismal report.
We rely on our infrastructure and it keeps us safe. We'd like to think and hope that we can still rely on it. But with deferred maintenance, with not putting money in investing in our infrastructure, we're putting our safety at risk. Do we have to wait until something breaks before we throw money at it? Because you pay 4 times more to fix something that's broken.
20-25 خارج بدون فیلتر.